Chapter 2 of the podcast series, Biological Classification. Since the dawn of civilization, there have been many attempts to classify living organisms. It was done instinctively, not using criteria that were scientific, but born out of a need to use organisms for our own use, for food, shelter, and clothing. Aristotle was the earliest to attempt a more scientific basis for classification. He used simple morphological characters to classify plants into trees, shrubs, and herbs. He also divided animals into two groups, those which had red blood and those that did not. In Linnaeus' time, a two-kingdom system of classification with Plantae and Animalia kingdom was developed that included all plants and animals respectively. This system did not distinguish between the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes, unicellular and multicellular organisms, and photosynthetic green algae and non-photosynthetic fungi organisms. Classification of organisms into plants and animals was easily done and was easy to understand, but a large number of organisms did not fall into either category. Hence, the two-kingdom system of classification used for a long time was found inadequate. Besides gross morphology, a need was also felt for including other characteristics like cell structure, nature of wall, mode of nutrition, habitat, methods of reproduction, evolutionary relationships, etc. Classification systems for the living organism have hence undergone several changes over the time. Though plant and animal kingdom have been a constant under all different systems, the understanding of what groups organisms will include under this kingdom have been changing. The number and nature of the other kingdoms have also been understood differently by different scientists over the time. I am going to read the chart which is given in the table 2.0 and the characteristics of the five kingdoms. First, I am going to read about the Monera, whose cell type is prokaryote, and Monera cell wall is non-cellulosic polysaccharide plus amino acid, and nuclear membrane is absent. Nuclear membrane is absent and body organization is cellular. Mode of nutrition is autotrophic, chemosynthetic and photosynthetic, and heterotrophic, saprophytic and parasitic. Second, we are going to read about Protista. Cell type is eukaryotic and cell wall is present in some and nuclear membrane is present. Cellular is the body organization and mode of nutrition is autotrophic, that is photosynthetic and heterotrophic. Next, fungi. Cell type is eukaryotic, cell wall is present with chitin, nuclear membrane is present, body organization is multicellular with loose tissue, and mode of nutrition is heterotrophic, saprophytic and parasitic. Next is Plantae, whose cell type is eukaryotic, cell wall is present with cellulose, and nuclear membrane is present, body organization is tissue organ, and mode of nutrition is autotrophic, photosynthetic. And Animalia, cell type is eukaryotic, cell wall is absent in the kingdom Animalia, and nuclear membrane is present, and body organization is tissue, organ and organ system, and mode of nutrition is heterotrophic, that is holozoic and saprophytic. This is the table I have read. Okay. Next, we are proceeding to the paragraph. R.H. Whittaker in 1969 proposed a five-kingdom classification. The kingdom defined by him were named Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. The main criteria for classification used by him include cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, reproduction, and phylogenetic relationship. Table 2.1 gives a comparative account of different characteristics of the five kingdoms. The three-domain system has also been proposed that divides the kingdom Monera into two domains, leaving the remaining eukaryotic kingdoms in a three-domain and thereby a six-kingdom classification. You will learn about this system in details in the higher class. Let us look at this five-kingdom classification to understand the tissue and consideration that influenced the classification system. Earlier classification system included bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi, mosses, ferns, gymnosperms and the angiosperms under plants. The character that unified this whole kingdom was that all the organisms included had a cell wall in their cells. This placed together groups which widely differed in other characteristics. It brought together the prokaryotic bacteria and the blue-green algae cyanobacteria with other groups which were eukaryotic. It also grouped together the unicellular organisms and the multicellular ones, say for example, Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra were placed together under algae. The classification did not differentiate between the heterotrophic group fungi and the autotrophic green plants, though they also showed a characteristic difference in their walls composition. The fungi had chitin in their walls, while the green plants had a cellulosic cell wall. When such characteristics were considered, the fungi were placed in separate kingdom fungi. All prokaryotic organisms were grouped together under kingdom Monera, and the unicellular eukaryotic organisms were placed in the kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista has brought together Chlamydomonas, Chlorella, earlier placed in the algae with plants and both having cell walls, with Paramoecium and Amoeba which were placed in the kingdom Animal, which lacks cell wall. It has put together organisms in earlier classification were placed in different kingdoms. This happened because the criteria for classification has changed. This kind of changes will take place in future too, depending on the improvement in our understanding of characteristics and evolutionary relationships over the period of time. Over time, an attempt has been made to evolve a classification system which reflects not only the morphological, physiological and reproductive similarities, but is also phylogenetic, that is based on evolutionary relationship. In this chapter we will study characteristics of kingdom Monera, Protista and fungi of the Whittaker system of classification. The kingdom Plantae and Animalia, commonly referred to as plant and animal kingdom respectively, will be dealt separately in chapter 3 and 4. Kingdom Monera. Bacteria are the sole members of the kingdom Monera. They are the most abundant microorganisms. Bacteria occur almost everywhere. Hundreds of bacteria are present in a handful of soil. They also live in extreme habitats such as hot springs, deserts, snow, and deep oceans, where very few other life forms can survive. Many of them live in or in other organisms as parasites. Bacteria are grouped under 4 categories based on their shape: the spherical coccus, that is plural cocci, the rod-shaped bacillus, plural bacilli, the comma-shaped vibrium, plural vibrio, and the spiral spirillum, plural spirilla. Though the bacterial structure is very simple, they are very complex in behavior. Simple in structure and complex in behavior. Understood? Compared to many other organisms, bacteria as a group show the most extensive metabolic diversity. Some of the bacteria are autotrophic, that is, they synthesize their own food from inorganic substrates. They may be photosynthetic autotrophic or chemosynthetic autotrophic. The vast majority of bacteria are heterotrophs, that is, they depend on other organisms or on a dead organic matter for food. Archaebacteria. These bacteria are special since they live in some of the most harsh habitats such as extreme salty areas halophiles, hot spring thermoacidophiles, and marshy areas methanogens. Archaebacteria differ from other bacteria in having a different cell wall structure, and this feature is responsible for their survival in extreme conditions. Methanogens are present in the gut of several ruminants, animals such as cows and buffaloes, and they are responsible for the production of methane gas, biogas from the dung of these animals. We are going to read the eubacteria. There are thousands of different eubacteria or true bacteria. They are characterized by the presence of a rigid cell wall and, if motile, a flagellum. The cyanobacteria, also referred to as blue-green algae, have a chlorophyll similar to green plants and are photosynthetic autotrophs. The cyanobacteria are unicellular, colonial or filamentous, freshwater marine or terrestrial algae. The colonies are generally surrounded by gelatinous sheath. They often form bloom in polluted water bodies. Some of these organisms can fix atmospheric nitrogen in specialized cells called heterocysts. Example, nostoc and anabina. Chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria oxidize various inorganic substances such as nitrates, nitrites, and ammonia and use the released energy for their ATP production. They play a great role in recycling nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and sulfur. Heterotrophic bacteria are most abundant in nature. The majority are important decomposers. Many of them have a significant impact on human affairs. They are helpful in making curd from milk, production of antibiotics, fixing nitrogen in legume roots, etc. Some are pathogens causing damage to human beings, crops, farm animals, and pets. Cholera, typhoid, tetanus, citrus canker are well-known diseases caused by bacteria. It's an important line. Cholera, typhoid, tetanus, citrus canker are well-known diseases caused by different bacteria. Bacteria reproduce mainly by fission. Sometimes, under unfavorable conditions, they produce spores. They also reproduce by a sort of sexual reproduction by adopting a primitive type of DNA transfer from one bacterium to the other. The mycoplasma are the organisms that completely lacks a cell wall. They are the smallest living cells known and can survive without oxygen. Many mycoplasma are pathogenic in animals and plants. Kingdom Protista we are going to read about. All single-celled, again I am repeating it, all single-celled eukaryotes are placed under Protista, but the boundaries of this kingdom are not well defined. What may be a photosynthetic protista to a one biologist may be a plant to another. In this book, we include chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans in Protista. Members of Protista are primarily aquatic. This kingdom forms a link with the other dealing with plants, animals, and fungi. Being eukaryotes, the Protista cell bodies contain a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Being eukaryotes, the Protista cell body contains a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Some have flagella or cilia. Protists reproduce asexually and sexually by a process involving cell fusion and zygote formation. Reproduce asexually and sexually by a process involving cell fusion
We
and
are
zygote
very
fusion.
happy to
Cell
hear
fusion
that you
and
are
zygote
satisfied
formation
with the
means
product.
by a special process.
Your feedback
Cell
is very important for us. Can you please
chrysophytes.
share your
These
valuable
groups
ratings
include
on the
diatoms
Amazon app
and golden
now,
algae.
Padmaji?
That's they are found in fresh water as well as in marine environments. They are microscopic and float
You have
passively in
played
water
us
currents
on the
plankton.
scale of
Most
1
of
to
them are
5
photosynthetic.
star, where
In
5
diatoms,
is
the cell wall
the
forms two thin
highest.
overlapping shells which fit
I will
together
assist
as in
you.
soap box.
Where
The walls
5
are
star is
embedded
the
with silica
highest.
and thus the
I
walls are
will assist you
indestructible.
how you have to
Thus,
add.
diatoms have left
Can you
behind
please
large
open
amount
the
of cell
Amazon
walls
app now,
deposits in their
Padmaji?
habitat. This accumulation over billions of years is referred to as diatomaceous earth. Being gritty, this soil is used in polishing,
I can
filtration
totally
of oils and
understand your
syrups.
busy schedule
Diatoms
and
are
I
the
can
chief producer
respect
in the
it too.
ocean. Next, we are
It
going
will
to read
only
about the
take a minute
dinoflagellates.
of your
सुन रहे
time.
हो?
You have
These
to just
organisms
click
are
on
mostly
the
marine
scale of
and photosynthetic. Marine and photosynthetic. They appear yellow, green, brown, blue or red depending on the main pigments present in their cells. Their cell walls
May I know
has
the
stiff
right
cellulose plates
convenient
on the
time?
outer surface.
When can I call you back for
Most
your
of them have
valuable
two flagella,
feedback,
one lies
Padmaji?
longitudinally and the other transversely in a furrow between the wall plates. Very often red dinoflagellates, example
Tomorrow at
Gonia
11 a.m.
lux, undergo such rapid multiplication
We will
that they
connect
make
you
the sea
back
appear
at your
red,
preferred
that is
time
red tides.
tomorrow in the
Toxins
morning,
released by
11
such large
a.m.
numbers may even
And
kill
if you are
other marine
comfortable
animals
in
such as
sharing
fishes.
it now,
Next,
it
we are
will
going to
just
read about
take a
euglenoids.
minute of your
Majority
time.
of them are freshwater organisms
Are you
found in stagnant
comfortable in
water.
sharing
Instead
it
of cell
now or
wall, they have
later?
a protein-rich layer called a pellicle, which makes their body flexible. They have two flagella, a short and a long one. Though they are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight, when they
Sorry
deprived
for
of
the
sunlight, they behave like
disturbance.
heterotroph by predating on other smaller organisms.
Thank you for your
Interestingly,
information.
the pigment of
Have a
euglenoid are
wonderful day.
identical to those that present
Sorry
in the
for
higher
the
plants.
disturbance.
Example, euglena.
Have a nice
Next, we are
day.
going to read about the slime molds.
समय देने के
Slime
लिए
molds
आपका
are
बहुत बहुत
saprophytic protists.
धन्यवाद.
The body move along decaying twigs and leaves, engulfing organic material. Under suitable conditions, they form an aggregation called plasmodium, which may grow and spread over several feet. During unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and forms fruiting body. Unfavorable condition में fruiting body बनाता है, bearing spores at their tips.
That is
The spores possesses true walls. The
tomorrow.
spores possesses true walls. They are extremely resistant and survive for many years, even under adverse conditions. The spores are dispersed by air currents. Next, we are going to read about protozoans. All protozoans are heterotrophs. And live as predators or parasites. They are believed to be primitive relatives of animals. There are four major groups of protozoans. First is amoebic protozoans. These organisms live in fresh water, seawater or moist soil. They move and capture their prey by putting out pseudopodia, false feet as in amoeba. Marine form have silica shells on their surface. Some of them, such as entamoeba, are parasites. Next, flagellated protozoans. The members of this group are either free-living or parasitic. They have flagella. The parasitic forms causes disease such as sleeping sickness. Example, trypanosoma. Ciliated protozoans. These are aquatic actively moving organisms because of the presence of thousands of cilia. They have a cavity gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. The coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes the water laden with food to be stirred into the gullet. Example, Paramoecium. Next, sporozoans. This includes diverse organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. The most notorious is Plasmodium malarial parasite, which causes malaria, a disease which has a staggering effect on human population. Kingdom fungi. The fungi constitute a unique kingdom of heterotrophic organisms. They show a great diversity in morphology and habitat. You must have been seeing fungi on a moist bread and rotten fruits. The common mushroom you eat and toadstools are also fungi. White spots seen on mustard leaves are due to the parasitic fungus. Some unicellular fungi, example yeast, are used to make bread and beer. Other fungi causes diseases in plants and animals. Wheat rust causing Puccinia is an important example. Some are the source of antibiotic, example penicillium. Fungi are cosmopolitan and occur in air, water, soil and on animals and plants. They prefer to grow in warm and humid places. Have you ever wondered why we keep food in the refrigerator? Yes, it is to prevent food from going bad due to bacterial or fungal infection. With the exception of yeast, which are unicellular, fungi are filamentous. Their body consists of long, slender, thread-like structure called hypha. The network of hypha is known as mycelium. Some hypha are continuous tube filled with multinucleated cytoplasm. These are called zoonotic hypha. Others have septa or cross walls in their hypha. The cell walls of fungi are composed of chitin and polysaccharides. It's an important one. Most fungi are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrates and hence are called saprophytes. Those that depend on living plant and animals are called parasites. They can also live as symbiont in association with algae lichens and with roots of higher plant as mycorrhiza. Reproduction in fungi can take place by vegetative means, fragmentation, fission and budding. Asexual reproduction is by spores called conidia or sporangiospores or zoospore, and sexual reproduction is by oospores, ascospores and basidiospores. The various spores are produced in distinct structure called fruiting body. The sexual cycle involves the following three steps. Fusion of protoplasm between two motile or non-motile gamete is called plasmogamy. Fusion of two nuclei is called karyogamy. Third, meiosis in zygote resulting in haploid spores. When a fungus reproduces sexually, two haploid hypha of compatible mating types come together and fuse. In some fungi, the fusion of two haploid cells immediately results in diploid cells 2n. However, in other fungi, Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes, an intervening dikaryotic stage n plus n, that is 2 nuclei per cell, occurs. Such a condition is called a dikaryon and the phase is called dikaryophase of fungus. Later the parental nuclei fuse and the cells become diploid. The fungi form fruiting bodies in which reduction division occurs, leading to formation of haploid spores. The morphology of the mycelium, mode of spore formation and fruiting body form the basis of the basis for the division of the kingdoms into various classes. Understood? First, Phycomycetes. Members of Phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats and on decaying wood in moist and damp places or as obligate parasites on plants. The mycelium is aseptate and zoonocytic. Asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores, that is motile, or by apollinospores, that is non-motile. Zoospore is motile and apollinospore is non-motile. These spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. A zygospore is formed by fusion of two gametes. These gametes are similar in morphologies, isogamous, or dissimilar, that is anisogamous or oogamous. Some common examples of Phycomycetes are mucor, rhizopus, the braid mold mentioned earlier, and the albugo, the parasitic fungi on mustard. Second, Ascomycetes, commonly known as sac fungi. The Ascomycetes are mostly multicellular, example penicillium, or rarely unicellular, example yeast, that is Saccharomyces. They are saprophytic, decomposer, parasitic, or coprophilous, growing on dung, means gobar. Mycelium is branched and septate. The asexual spores are conidia produced exogenously on the special mycelium called conidiophores. Conidia on germination produce mycelium. Sexual spores are called ascospores, which are produced endogenously in a sac-like asci, singular ascus. These asci are arranged in different types of fruiting bodies called ascocarps. Some examples of Ascomycetes are Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Neurospora. Neurospora is used extensively in the biochemical and genetic work. Many members like morels and truffles are edible and are considered as delicious. Swadish. Next is Basidiomycetes. Commonly known form of Basidiomycetes are mushroom, bracate fungi, or puffballs. They grow in soil, on logs, and tree stems and in living plant bodies as parasites, example rust and smuts. The mycelium is branched and septate. Branched and septate. The asexual spores are generally not found, but vegetative reproduction by fragmentation is common. The sex organs are absent, but plasmodium is brought about by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different strains or genotypes. The resultant structure is dikaryotic, which ultimately give rise to basidium. Karyogamy and meiosis take place in the basidium, producing 4 basidiospores. The basidiospores are exogenously produced on the basidium, plural basidia. The basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies called basidiocarps. Some common members are agaricus, that is mushroom, eustilago, smut, and Puccinia is the rust fungus. Next is Deuteromycetes, commonly known as imperfect fungi because only the asexual or vegetative phases of this fungi are known. When the sexual forms of these fungi were discovered, they were moved into classes they rightly belong to. It is also possible that the asexual and vegetative stages have been given one name and placed under Deuteromycetes, and the sexual stage another and placed under another class. Later, when the linkages were established, the fungi were correctly identified and moved out of the Deuteromycetes. Once perfect sexual stage of members of Deuteromycetes were discovered, they were often moved to Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. The Deuteromycetes reproduce only by asexual spores known as conidia. The Deuteromycetes reproduce only by asexual spores known as conidia. The mycelium is septate and branched, Some members are saprophytes
So
or parasites, while a large number of them are decomposer of litter and help in mineral cycling. Some examples are Alternaria, Coletrichum, and Trichoderma. Alternaria, Coletrichum, and Trichoderma.
I hope the installation has been
Kingdom Plantae.
successfully
Kingdom Plantae
completed.
includes all eukaryotic chlorophyll containing organisms commonly called plants. A few members are partially heterotrophic such as the insectivorous plants or parasites. Bladderwort and Venus flytrap are examples of insectivorous plant and Cuscusta cuscutta is a parasite. The plant cells have an eukaryotic structure with prominent chloroplast and cell wall mainly made of cellulose. We will study the eukaryotic cell structure in detail in chapter 8. Plantae include algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm and angiosperm. The life cycle of plant has two different distinct phases, the diploid sporophytic and the haploid gametophytic, that alternate with each other the length of the haploid and diploid phases and whether these phases are free living or dependent on other vary among different group in plants. This phenomena is called alternation of generation. We will study further details in the kingdom in the chapter 3rd. Kingdom Animalia. This kingdom is characterized by heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms that are multicellular and their cells lack cell walls that directly or indirectly depend on plant for food. They digest their food in an internal cavity and store food reserve as glycogen or fat. Their mode of nutrition is holozoic by ingestion of food. They follow a definite growth pattern and grow into adults that have a definite shape and size. Higher forms show elaborate sensory and neuromotor mechanisms. Most of them are capable of locomotion. The sexual reproduction is by copulation of male and female followed by embryological development. Salient features of various phyla are described in chapter 4. Now we are going to read about viruses, viroids, prions and lichens. There are many chances of coming questions from here. In the 5 kingdom classification of Whittaker, there is no mention of lichens and some acellular organisms like viruses, viroids and prions. These are briefly introduced here. All of us who have suffered the ill effects of common cold or flu know what effects viruses can have on us. Even if we do not associate it with our condition, viruses did not find a place in classification since they are not considered truly living. If we understand living as those organisms that have a cell structure, the viruses are non-cellular organisms that are characterized by having an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. Once they infect a cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, killing the host. Host की वाट लगा दो. Would you call viruses living or non-living? Virus means venom or poisonous fluid. Dmitry Ivanovsky in 1892 recognized certain microbes as causal organisms of the mosaic disease of tobacco. These were found to be smaller than bacteria because they passed through bacteria-proof filters. M.W. Bazarnik in 1898 demonstrated that the extract of the infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants and named the new pathogen virus and called the fluid as Contagium vivum fluidum, infectious living fluid. W.M. Stanley in 1935 showed that viruses could be crystallized and crystals consist largely of proteins. They are inert outside their specific host cells. Viruses are obligate parasites. In addition to proteins, Viruses also contain genetic material that could be either RNA or DNA. No viruses contain both RNA or DNA. A virus is nucleoprotein and the genetic material is infectious. In general, viruses that infect plants have a single-stranded RNA, and viruses that infect animals have either single or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA. Bacterial viruses or the bacteriophage, that is, virus that infect the bacteria, are usually double-stranded viruses. The protein coat called capsid, made of a small subunit called capsomers, protect the nucleic acid. These capsomers are arranged in helical or polyhedral geometric forms. Viruses cause diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes, and influenza. Diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes, and influenza are caused by viruses. AIDS in humans is also caused by a virus. In plants, the symptom can be mosaic formation of leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted growth. Symptoms can be mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted growth. Viroids. In 1971, Theo Dinner discovered a new infectious agent that was smaller than viruses and caused potato spindle tuber diseases. It was found to be a free RNA. It lacked the protein coat that is found in viruses. Viroid are without protein coat and hence the name viroid. The RNA of the viroid was of low molecular weight. Next is prions. In modern medicine, certain infectious neurological diseases were found to be transmitted by an agent consisting of abnormally folded protein. The agent was similar in size to viruses. These agents were called prions. The most notable diseases caused by prions are bovine spongiform encephalopathy, that is BSE, commonly called mad cow disease in cattle, and its analogous variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, that is CGD, in humans. Lichens. Lichens are symbiotic association, that is mutually and useful association between algae and fungi. The algal component is known as phycobiont and the fungal component is known as mycobiont.
We are very happy to hear that you are satisfied with the
you can remember
product.
it by FM,
Your feedback
which
is
are
very
autotrophic
important
and
for
heterotropic
us.
respectively.
Can
That
you
is,
please
algal
share
component is
your
phycobiont,
valuable
which is
ratings on the
autotrophic, and fungal
Flipkart app
component
now,
mycobiont
Bhavya
is
Chauhanji?
heterotropic. Algae prepare food for fungi and fungi provide shelter and absorb mineral nutrients and water for its partner. So close is their association that if one saw a lichen in nature,
Have to rate
one
us
would
on
never
the
imagine
scale
that they
of
had
1
two
to
different
5
organisms
star,
within them.
where 5 is
Lichens
being
are
the
very good pollution
highest.
indicators. They do
I
not grow
will
in a polluted
assist
area.
you how
Understood?
you have to rate.
I am going to read the
Can
summary
you
in a
please
speedy and
open
a
the
quick way.
Flipkart
Okay?
application
Biological
now,
classification of plant and
Bhavya ji?
animal were first proposed by Aristotle on the basis of simple morphological characters. Linnaeus later classified all living organisms into two
If you are
kingdoms, plant and animal.
comfortable in sharing
Whittaker
it
proposed
now,
an
it
elaborate
will
five-kingdom
just take
classification on
less
a
than
protest of fungi,
minute
plant, and
of
animal.
your
The main
time.
criteria of the five-kingdom
You have
classification
to
were
click
cell
on
structure,
the scale of
body
1 to
organization, mode of
5
nutrition and
stars.
reproduction, and phylogenetic relationship.
I
This
can
is
guide
important.
you if you
The
are
main criteria for
comfortable,
five-kingdom
Bhavya ji.
classification is cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, reproduction, and phylogenetic relationships. In the five kingdom classification, bacteria are
Sorry for the
included in kingdom
disturbance.
Monera.
You
Bacteria
can
are
surely
cosmopolitan in
submit in
distribution.
your
These
convenient
organisms
time.
show the most
May I know
extensive
the right
metabolic
time?
diversity.
When
Bacteria
can I
show
call
most
you back
extensive
for your
metabolic diversity.
valuable
Bacteria
feedback
may be autotrophic or
confirmation,
heterotrophic in their
Bhavya
mode of
ji?
nutrition. Kingdom Protista include all single-celled Eukaryotes such as cryophyte, dinoflagellate, euglenoid, slime molds, and protozoans. Protists have defined nucleus and other brain-bound organelles. They
We
reproduce
have to
both asexually
register
and
the
sexually.
data on the app we
Members
are
of kingdom fungi
working.
show a great
For
diversity
that,
in
if
structure
you
and
don't
habitat. Most
mind,
fungi
can
are
I
saprophytic
reschedule
in
it
their
for
mode of
after
nutrition.
1 hour
They show sexual
for
and
the
asexual
feedback
reproduction. Phycomites, ascomites,
registration?
basidiomytes, and deuteromycetes are the four classes under this kingdom. The plant include all
Thank you
eukaryotic
for
chlorophyll
your
containing organisms,
information.
that is algae,
We
bryophytes,
will
pteridophytes,
connect you back
gymnosperm, and
at your
angiosperm
preferred
are
time for
included
the
in this group.
feedback
The life cycle of
confirmation.
plant exhibit alternation of
Thank you
generation,
for being the
gametophytic
part
and
of the
spirophytic,
Eureka
gametophytic
Fox
and
family.
spirophytic. The heterotropic
Stay
eukaryotic
safe, stay
multicellular
healthy.
organisms lacking a cell wall are included in
Have
the
a
kingdom
nice day
Animalia.
ahead.
The mode of nutrition of this animal of
समय
this
देने के
organism
लिए
is
आपका
holozoic
बहुत बहुत
of the
धन्यवाद.
kingdom Animalia. They reproduce
आपका
mostly by
दिन
the sexual
शुभ
modes.
रहे.
Some acellular organisms like viruses and viroid as well as the lichens are not included in the five kingdom system of classification. With this, our chapter is completed. Thank you for hearing the podcast. Have a wonderful